But can you hear me? Yeah, that's important. Hi, my name is Basti Schubert. I'm Solutions Engineer with Grafana Labs. I'm part of the Prometheus team, and I have the honor to moderate today's panel discussion. And with that, just going to get started. Today, we're diving into the quickly evolving world of observability, how organizations are scaling their strategies, managing governance, and balancing the innovation with the reliability. Joining us today are Keenan. He's a partner sales solution architect at AWS who brings expertise in cloud-native observability and also platform scalability.
Try my last name.
Try my last name? Yeah, that's bummer. Okay, and also we have Julian. He's a director partner manager at PCG.io, an observability partner specializing in helping companies develop and grow their cloud strategy. So let's get started. To set the stage, can each of you describe the observability strategy and how Grafana fits into it? What's the primary drivers, reliability, cost, standardization, or something else? Who of you wants to get started?
Sure.
We just take Julian.
I can start. Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I think in the observability field, the functionality is the most important thing. The tool that you use needs to give you the results that you need. But what we hear from customers, what is driving them is two major things: cost reductions and the reduction of operational overhead. So they want to use tools and not build them up and manage them and make sure that they're running properly. They just want to use them. And the employees want to basically help the business drive the future things and not maintain what has happened or what has been used in the past. So these two drivers really are things that bring our customers often to Grafana Cloud, because we see on-premise they have the self-hosted Grafana stacks and they like the tool. At the same time, they don't want to have all the efforts of managing that in the cloud. So we propose to them that Grafana Cloud is a good solution. And yeah, compared to alternatives, often the price then wins the conversation because functionality is similar, reliability is amazing, and yeah, then the price is the deal breaker for the other tools.
Yeah, that being said, Grafana Cloud mostly does get the reliability from our partner AWS. So, Keenan, what are your stance on the question?
Okay, it looks like I'm the only guy. I'm the only representative from major cloud hyperscalers from AWS. Thank you. You mentioned a couple of things. So the second one being drivers. Let me start with drivers. So when what do? I'm a partner solution architect at AWS. I talk to customers about, customers come to me, they explain their challenges. I have a talk to them about the observability strategy, for some of the challenges, should you use managed services? Should you go for one of the ISVs that are out there? And the things that I keep hearing most often when it comes to drivers for observability, ISV independent software vendors adoption, one being mean time to resolution, taking the insights of the three pillars of observability, your metrics, logs, and traces. So the customers want to reduce the mean time to resolution, figure out what the problem is, and ultimately being able to reduce it. Another way is to get enough data to be able to make data-driven decisions about optimizing their infrastructure and respective costs in the cloud would be another one. Another popular topic is, of course, if they have observability, usually, sometimes they don't have observability. If they have, there's no centralized way of approaching observability. So they come to me and say, yeah, we need a centralized way. We need a unified way, a procedure on how we're going to tackle observability. And then finally, if you have EC2 instances and stuff like that, that's easy to observe. Everybody can do it. We have our managed services to do it. But once you start talking about complex infrastructures, once you start talking about cloud, a lot of our multi-cloud approach, they have multiple cloud. There's some data centers involved, on-premise infrastructure involved. So in that case, they also want to be able to observe these using a single observability solution. So those are some of the key drivers that we keep seeing at the AWS. Yeah.
Cool, thanks, Keenan. As we see it, and as I'm part of the pre-sales team, I also see things like many companies that are struggling with structuring observability responsibilities. Like we had questions in the talk before about how do you do this and that when you have multiple stacks running? How do you aggregate or segregate data? What governance models have you seen work the best? Is it like a centralized approach, distributed ownerships, or maybe something hybrid that you have? Any tips on how to balance accountability without creating typical bottlenecks? Should we go ahead with Julian as well?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we are also a managed service provider, so some of the solutions we build for customers, we manage them and operate them after we hand them over to the customer. And our limit is basically the end of the infrastructure layer where the operating system goes towards the application. And we often end up with hybrid setups in terms of observability where we observe the infrastructure and everything there, and customers then observe their own application because they know their applications better than us, and we make sure that the infrastructure is performing the way it should be. And that works most of the cases quite well for us, but it needs to be clear that it's one unified dashboard so that even in order there's something going on, we can help them troubleshoot, or vice versa, that we find the origin or the root cause of the problem as soon as possible, because that's what these tools are made for.
I find that, you mentioned a couple of things here. I find that federated approach works best for observability because on one hand, you want to have a centralized strategy when talking about observability that's set from a central team in your company, but you also want to give each team enough freedom to own the dashboards that they create and the respective alarms that go with the dashboards. Something that we see worked is, of course, role-based access, because you don't want everybody to have access to all the data. It should be on a need-to-know basis. Something else is, create dashboards that are, for your popular services within your company. And then, of course, you should have a way to do best practice sharing across team boundaries. If there's one best practice, have a procedures for other teams to find out and work together on this. And then, of course, I think this was mentioned by one of the other speakers, have buy-in, and not just from your developers and your operations teams. You should also have buy-in from business teams as well. And something that's very important, and I think you should, look at your teams within your company, and then for each team, pick an observability champion, somebody who's passionate about data. Let's say, pick somebody who's passionate about observability, but observability, in essence, is data. The fundamental, you collect a bunch of data, and then you build software on top of it to make sense out of it. Pick somebody who's passionate about data, and have them drive the initiative within their team so it doesn't fizzle out. If you don't get people to take ownership of observability, everybody owns it, but nobody really does. And then it just kind of fizzles out with time. Having that one person that drives it, that stays on top of it, tends to produce results with time.
I agree with that. And one thing that we do usually with customers in our managed service to get this ownership and the cross-relation to businesses, we try to also monitor business metrics and kind of make, try to put them in relation to the technical metrics, so that we know how many clicks per dollar spent, or what's the CPU usage of something for each dollar that we create, and so on. And by that, by seeing metrics in a different form with other information, we find business owners tend to get more engaged in that topic, and they own it more. And what I find interesting is you mentioned something, it's important to know what you want to do, because it happens once in a while that customers tell us they have amazing dashboards, amazing observability, and then we ask what happens when the metric crosses the threshold, and like nothing. Yeah. We have an outage somewhere. It's like, why didn't you put an alarm that you get alerted when the threshold is reached? Like, we never thought of it. So, yeah, I think monitoring is, in the end, it's a tool, but you need to know what you want to achieve with the tool, and it's not just, it doesn't fulfill its purpose by existing.
It should definitely go back from the business. You should always start with the question when monitoring. Exactly. I see a lot of people, they gather all this data, and then, okay, now you're observing all this data. What are you trying to achieve with it?
And they use one dashboard. They have a million dashboards, but they only use one, really.
And then, is it answering any questions? Is it? Maybe.
Well, it's an excellent conversation that I don't want to interrupt, but getting to the point that you have this thousands of dashboards and you're really using just one. One of the questions that I prepared for today is, with so much data that we have available now in all the systems that we're collecting, and what are the most meaningful metrics and KPIs to track for example, change management, continuous improvement of your observability? Do you have any ideas on that? Will it fit on the dashboard?
To be honest, it goes a bit too much in the technical perspective for me. Maybe Keenan can take on some of that.
So your question was, what are some of the most meaningful KPIs that?
Exactly. The meaningful KPIs that you can have for track.
The most effective KPIs are the ones that tie in whatever is happening with the infrastructure, with your customer experience. How does it affect, in a business context, how does it affect your customer conversion rates? How does it affect your customer satisfaction on your cloud? So I think those are the metrics that are really important.
Relating the technical parts to the business parts, so that if something changes in one, you see it also in the other.
And with metrics, you should figure out a customer. When I say a customer, it doesn't have to necessarily be a customer, a paying customer, a customer in a retail business, a customer that's using your API, whatever. So focus on your customer's journey and then track the metrics that are going to improve that journey, that are going to support that journey from your customer. So what is it? What is their journey? What's the important parts of their journey? And then collect all the metrics that are going to support and make the journey better for your customer. So those are the most effective, relevant metrics that you can collect. Not the the CPU, the memory usage, the latency, the errors. That's all good, but if it doesn't, your customer is not going to see any of that. Your customer only has the experience and whatever. That's what they see. They don't see what's going on in the background. So go back from your customer, figure out what is it that they care about, and then get the metrics to support that and improve that customer journey.
Yes, find out the technical metrics that support the business metrics and make sure that they move in the same way. And so if something happens between that ratio, then there's probably a problem in the system somewhere, or something has changed in the customer behavior. But yeah, we try to see observability now in a more modern way of relating it to the business, because CPU usage is nice. It's nice to see, and it's important to see in order to make sure that the system works properly. But in the end, you want to know, how does it impact my business, and how can we use these metrics to make our business better? Than just making sure that the CPUs are in a good window.
Yeah. Okay. One of the last questions for the panel is: do you have any advice to organizations that are looking to strengthen their observability strategy? When you have one advice that you could give them, what would it be for an organization that wants to improve observability, besides what we've already seen from Gunther and Ove?
So I used to work for AWS, so I'm afraid that our,
Okay, your next
that
level
our
is something you
answer
know.
might be very similar, but I always say start from the back. Think about what you want to achieve and work backwards from there. And yeah, go with your observability beyond just technical things. Mix in the business critical measures of how your business works and then try to relate them in a way that you know when these metrics move, also the business will move.
One of the most, I said, one of the most important tips that I can give to our customers, I think I'm going to reiterate on it. We talked about this a little bit before. Start with the questions. Start with a question, and then work backwards from that question. In AWS, we have a lot of, you probably know this, we have dashboards on top of dashboards on top of dashboards. But none of them just started off, well, let's just track it for the hell of tracking it. It was always, what questions am I trying to answer by building this dashboard? And with observability, I think you should do the same thing. We have, I see a lot of teams that drown in data. They have mentioned this before, they have all the data, but they're not getting any insights out of it. And it's not helping them to make any actions out of all the data that they're collecting. So always start from the question and then go through through this process of collecting metrics to help you answer that question. And something else, when you look at observability tools, something very important, on paper, you have your Dynatraces, your Datadogs, your Splunks, New Relics. On a paper, they have a lot of features. And you see it's complex, you can do everything and anything you can do, possible with it. But the most complex tool is not necessarily the best tool. It's the one that's going to provide you the data that you need to take actionable insights and continuously improve having that data. So.
Yeah, don't build dashboards for the sake of having dashboards. Have them have purpose and make sense.
Okay, great.